All right, welcome to the first Glance with Jody Vance of 2021. Very excited to get into this. This is where we make available to you basically what's typically only been available to insiders in markets, those who wear very expensive suits or have massive portfolios. Not anymore, not at Equity Guru. You're going to have an opportunity to find out about great companies, great opportunities right at the ground floor. And we are super excited to have Hugh Rogers with us, the CEO of X-Phyto. And this couldn't be a more topical piece for where we are as we launch into 2021. Hugh, thanks for being with us.
Jody, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
I don't think there is a bigger topic of conversation right now, aside from maybe vaccines. But even then, as people wait for their opportunity to receive a COVID-19 vaccine, how much rapid testing, really rapid testing, could change the way we are living our lives in one area of lockdown or another. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and the product you're bringing to market?
Absolutely. So X-Phyto is evolved into a bioscience accelerator, but one of our most advanced programs is in the diagnostic space. And within the diagnostic portfolio, our COVID-19 tests are front and center. So right now, our lead product, which we expect to be approved for commercial sales in Europe very soon, within this quarter, is a rapid PCR test. So this is, we believe it to be the fastest and most portable point of care PCR test. We focused on this particular product because we felt that PCR, essentially definitive diagnostics, would play a key role going forward, but they had to be fast, much faster than the sort of 24 to 48 hour turnarounds, which meant they had to be compatible with portable or micronized PCR equipment. So that meant small scale satellite labs set up at airports, cruise ship terminals, border control centers. So that's really been our focus, and as I said, our lead product.
I literally have goosebumps as you're explaining this, because having had to do a deep dive in my day job of being a talk show host, I've spoken with epidemiologists and scientists and those who have explained to me in minute detail the difference between a PCR test and an antigen test, and what one rapid test and a swab versus a swish and spit, or, I mean, the positivity or the false positivity rates for some. I mean, there's so much conversation around rapid testing and really the concerns around accuracy issues. And one of the things of X-Phyto in doing our research, you have really not rushed this to market because you wanted to make sure that accuracy was a big piece of this. Am I right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, and we have seen the PCR market, certainly diagnostic level accuracy. I mean, that's the gold standard. When you move into the antigen test, you're looking at, in some cases, high sensitivity and specificity, but across the board, certainly limits. So within asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic patients, many false negatives, in some cases false positives. It just doesn't have the diagnostic level accuracy, and for that reasons, governments are not generally endorsing them.
Right.
So when we look now in Canada, North America, the Canadian government, the U.S. government requiring a negative test to enter the country, I think it will almost certainly be a PCR test.
Almost certainly. And we've seen in the news cycle that with the implementation of requiring a negative test prior to arriving in Canada, many people did, perhaps in the United States or elsewhere, stop in at the Costco and pick up the antigen test, thinking that that was going to be enough to get them on the plane or through Canada Customs. Not the case. So is the goal here for X-Phyto to be a gold standard in terms of rapid testing, as you mentioned, in airports, in cruise ship terminals, perhaps even long-term care homes, which are at such risk right now?
Right. So I can't say too much about our strategy other than we are focusing on the transportation industry in particular. We have very deep networks in Germany, in Bavaria in particular, so that's one of our focuses. But ultimately to provide the fastest and, as I said, most portable PCR kit market available, and it is compatible with a broad range of commonly used PCR equipment. So versatile platform.
So just so people know, your stock symbol is XPHY, XPhyto. XPHY is the stock symbol. Hugh Rogers, CEO of XPhyto. Tell us a little bit about the 3A philosophy. You keep mentioning Germany and your partners and how it's rolling out in Europe. Can you talk more about 3A?
Yeah, so 3A is a diagnostic company based in Germany. We have an exclusive commercialization agreement with them. So their approach, and they have a number of products, but it's all low cost, highly portable, in some cases self-administered products, where you're creating the ability for essentially decentralized testing, which I think is a really important part of the model going forward. And I think this is going to be a permanent change to, I believe, the way we live. I think we can, the rollout of these vaccines is actually not going to decrease testing. It's going to increase testing, certainly at border sites. We're going to see a sort of a piecemeal vaccination program globally, which means I think developing countries, it will be years before those vaccination programs roll out, if they ever roll out, at least in a consistent way. So I think the testing infrastructure with this type of approach, portability, speed, accuracy, is certainly here to stay.
It is really quite something. As I say, it gives that feeling of, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this on the market. But when you speak about no specialized training in order to administer one of these tests that are coming to market, and how it's explained similar to a pregnancy test, which most of us have. I mean, I went through 2.5 years of fertility treatment in order to have my son. Therefore, I am very familiar with pregnancy tests. And if I could as easily find out if I was asymptomatic for COVID-19, or if my symptoms were in fact COVID related, by simply utilizing a test such as how I did administer a pregnancy test, that would be game changing. I'd have a cupboard full of them here. This is truly, as you say, standing at the precipice of changing how we live our lives.
Right. So, and that's in fact the LFA, the lateral flow assay that you're referring to, is in fact a second test in addition to our PCR product. So that is we have our lead product, which is PCR, and right, a lateral flow assay, which is a second test, which is a disposable, extremely low cost test. So we have several in our portfolio in addition to an entire biosensor diagnostic portfolio. So again, back to 3A, an extensive background in particular in oral or saliva-based diagnostics, and they built an entire portfolio or suite of products that we're developing and taking to market.
So can you explain the psychedelic aspect of your business as well?
Right. So the psychedelic aspect is an evolution from our focus on cannabis, which ties into our drug delivery platforms. So we are in the cannabis space, and as new APIs or active pharmaceutical ingredients emerge on the pharmaceutical scene, XPhyto is committed to exploring those opportunities, and psychedelics we see as an exceptional opportunity in the mental health space. So whether it's depression, anxiety, addiction, post-traumatic stress disorders, or any sort of type of trauma-related counseling, psychedelics are, although the scientific evidence is limited, it is extremely strong. And there's a lot of promise in this area, and certainly the anecdotal evidence and the historical use in some cases, for example, with mescaline, peyote, cactus, and certain ceremonial practices going back thousands of years. So there is good evidence, and we will very soon be announcing our strategy for 2021 with respect to psychedelics. But it will involve the production of API, the delivery using our proprietary drug delivery formulas, and clinical validation.
Okay, it is time for me to ask you about you, Hugh. How did you get into this, and what was your path to XPhyto like?
Right. So I'm a lawyer by background. I do a lot of corporate restructuring and securities work. And prior to that, I have an undergraduate degree in cell biology and genetics and worked in research. So when the opportunity presented itself to get involved in the industry, in the biotech industry, and I have some background in diagnostics as well, as I said, the opportunity to run my own company and to really to be able to explore different opportunities. And XFIDO is really, it's become an incubator or acceleration engine that allows investors access to these absolutely cutting edge opportunities in the bioscience sector. So it's been a thrill, and I'm very excited to be part of it.
It sounds thrilling, and it's varied. I mean, you're covering off real, impactful, poignant pieces of humanity within this company. That's what strikes me.
Yeah, and that is actually one of the sort of, I want to say our mission statement, but I think driving a lot of this is the ability to make an impact. So whether it's psychedelics dealing with, alcohol or drug addiction, or COVID-19 pandemic management, and in other cases, we made an acquisition in Germany of a world-class drug delivery company, and this is a platform technology that we can leverage over and over again with different active pharmaceutical ingredients. We're working on epilepsy treatments using CBD, MS treatments using THC. We have anti-addiction medications. We have an Alzheimer's transdermal patch. So an entire pipeline of drug products. But to your point, absolutely, each one has a significant human impact, which is important to us.
And Parkinson's disease, that one stood out to me as well. As somebody in my family, I've got people in my family with both Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So in reading through, as I said, you're really running the gamut here with what your company's umbrella has beneath it right now, and some of the possibilities. What are some of the dates circled as a company? You've been cautious with what you can share, understandably so, but for somebody who's looking to invest, is this a long-term gain? Get in now while it's still all being discovered, so you can be a part of it as it grows for the long term?
It's certainly a long-term investment, but I think Q1 of this year, there's a number of important milestones. So in our diagnostic business, the COVID-19 PCR kit, we expect commercial approval and initial sales. In our drug delivery business, our Parkinson's transdermal patch will be going to clinical validation, and in our psychedelic business will really be kicking off. So we've got our 3 subsidiaries and partnerships advancing a number of products to market. So first quarter of this year is a pretty exciting time to be involved.
It's an exciting one indeed. XFITO, again, if you're wondering, the stock symbol XPHY. We're with CEO Hugh Rogers. Do you remember the first investment you made? What brought you to the table, and what due diligence did you do prior to putting your hard-earned money into something?
You mean my first investment ever?
Yeah. Do you remember?
Well, it was during the .com bubble, and
good for you.
I would skip school in my undergraduate degree in day trading. So I made a fair bit of money in a very short period of time. That was, I think, it got me hooked on the public markets.
I love a success story like that. That is outstanding. I told you that I wanted to sort of pick your brain and get some idea of the man behind this XFITO, this company. And so if somebody were to want to find out more, how would they reach out to find out the information about you? Are you somebody who's very hands-on with investors, the communication and answering, the who's and the what's and the whys?
Generally, I mean, the team's expanding for sure. Just trying to run 3 different businesses and the time commitment, especially with COVID and travel restrictions. Many of our operations are in Germany, so we do have a team that's growing. But I think info@xfido.com is probably the best way, by email. And feel free for anyone to reach out, and I generally answer those emails myself.
Nice. xfito.com, xphyto.com is how you can get more information on this. I'd like to circle back around once your products hit the market. How much, just in general or target, will your PCR test be selling for per unit?
So our initial customers are very likely to be institutional. And in many cases, there's an insurance reimbursement aspect to that. So initial launch would be Germany, and then Switzerland, Austria, and the German-speaking regions of Europe, and then greater Europe prior to coming to North America. So I think the kit itself will retail somewhere in the 10 to 15 euro range, but there's reimbursement models in all of those countries. And these would be generally larger orders with institutional clients.
And when it comes to the what did you call it? The one that's more like a pregnancy test. Look at me. Here's my expertise. The flow one, the lateral flow, is it called?
Lateral flow assays. So that's been admittedly more challenging, say through the validation process in Europe. There's certain ways to do that in North America that are easier, but given restrictions on access to the actual virus itself in Europe, it has been challenging. And that's another reason we're focusing on the PCR. But PCR being a definitive diagnostic is really what governments are endorsing. So PCR is the focus for our company right now. The lateral flow assay is secondary. This would be more of a retail at-home use. Certainly a large market, but we believe, particularly in the transportation industry, that the PCR being definitive and rapid as well is the way to go.
Could be a game changer. We like having game changers here on First Glance with Jody Vance. Hugh, thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you very much.